All right, and here we are. Welcome everyone. Today is June 30th. And today is the first episode of Money Matters. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday and Thursday, and then we're going to do a webinar on specific financial stuff on Saturdays. So watch out for the schedule for all that. I will be posting that. And the purpose of Money Matters is really to get people just talking about money, thinking about their financial, and it's not really necessarily money, but it's your life. It's like, it's funny. We hear people talk about like the things you don't want to talk about at like the family gathering or Thanksgiving or Christmas is you don't want to talk about politics or religion, and the third thing you typically don't want to talk about is money. And it's like, aren't these the things we want to talk about? Why are we made these things taboo? Like politics, for example, is all that really is talking about how we believe our society should work, right? And religion is about how we believe our lives, our worldview exists. And the only reason why they say don't bring these things up is because unfortunately we've lost the ability to communicate, to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. And we want to learn again how to converse with each other, how to have different opinions, how to make our opinions known, and not be offensive or be offended. And I understand what happens when people have differing opinions, especially, who was it? It was I can't think of his name. Shoot. I'm seeing the face. I don't the atheist guy. But I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he basically said you can't use reasoning and logic to change the mind of someone who didn't use reasoning and logic to come to their conclusion in the first place, right? And so what we need to do as a society is to learn how to communicate better, to learn how to present our arguments, our worldview, our opinions, because we all have different opinions. We all come from different families, different facts of life, different information we've been given, different experiences. And so we're all going to look at every topic differently. We're not going to agree. It's pretty simple, right? So, but the idea is to be able to listen to someone else, find out what they're saying, find out if it's legit, and if you want to accept it into your worldview or not. And if the answer is not, then cool. Like, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a personal attack. If somebody doesn't, one of the things, if you know me, I am a follower of Elon Musk. And one of the things I do like about what he says, and he says a lot of things I don't like, but he says a lot of things I do. And one of the things I do agree with is he says, the objective, we're always going to be wrong. The objective every day is to just be less wrong. How can we be less wrong? And as far as that goes, morning, actually, I'm trying not to answer too many messages. I will get to them in a little bit. So by the way, just so everyone knows, I am on TikTok right now under philosophyman76. And we are live on YouTube at Bright Futures, the Bright Futures website on YouTube. So I am on the path of becoming a certified financial planner. Right now, I'm working with New York Life, and I'm working on some of my exams so I can get to that certified level. And but I wanted to come on to just talk about why I got into that stuff and why I'm into financial planning. And if you're on my TikTok right now, I have something like, I don't know, at least 200 videos that I've done on stocks, on Tesla stock and the company. But there's so many facets of finances that now that I'm diving into and learning all this stuff, it's so important that we understand it. It's like, we know I come from a whole family of teachers. My parents were teachers. My sister and brother are teachers. My aunts and uncles are teachers. Like, everyone's a teacher. I'm like the one person that's not a teacher, and I just enjoy teaching, but not in the school system. So I do sales and I do podcasts like this. So, but as far as our education system is designed to make you a good worker. It's designed to make you a good, if we're using the Robert Kiyosaki phrases here, a good E, which is an employee, or a good S, which is a self-employed person. That's what the education system is designed to do. It's designed to teach you the things that you need to know to be, a doctor, a craftsman. Well, you used to have woodworking and used to have all kinds of stuff in schools now, but it's literally just to get you to learn the basics so you can work the machines and do the basic jobs. And that's what it's designed to do, but it doesn't teach you about money. And it's funny because it seems like that would be the number one subject that because no matter what you do, you're going to be taking in money, right? You're going to have money come into your hands and go out of your hands. And so the fact that we don't teach people, and I remember it used to be a thing like, oh, kids don't even know how to balance a checkbook. Now, nobody has a checkbook nowadays. Or they used to have a class about stocks, right? And all they would do is they would have the kids pick some stocks and then see if it went up or down. And that was really the extent of financial education. I remember having some accounting classes where they would teach you how to, balance the books a little bit. And one of the books that I read that I feel like everyone should read is Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's a couple of them. One is The Richest Man in Babylon. The second one is Rich Dad Poor Dad. I remember when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad a long time ago. I think it was like 2003. Sorry to keep coughing into the microphone here, but it was like in 2000. I'm pretty sure it was 2003. And I had the book for a while, and I ended up giving it to my father. I said, "Here, why don't you?" He was laying on the bed or on the couch, and he wasn't doing anything. So I told him to read this book. And if you haven't read the Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's like 200 pages. It's a really easy read. And I tossed it to him, and he was in his 60s at that time, and he wasn't really known for reading. He used to yell at me for reading too much. Right? He was a teacher, but he was a gym teacher, and he played minor league baseball, and he was an athlete type of thing. And I gave him the book, and I remember the next morning I was reading something else. I think I was reading the 21 Laws of Leadership or something like that. And I gave him the book and the next morning I was at breakfast and I was eating some cereal. My dad comes down. I was living with them at the time. This was quite some time ago. And he goes, "You got to read this book." And I was like, "Oh, this book's good?" And he's like, "Yeah, you got to read this book." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll read it when you're finished." And he's like, "I'm finished." I'm like, "You finished? I just gave it to you yesterday." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I stayed up all night and I read this book. And it's amazing." And I was like, "Oh, okay. All right." And I literally had the book I was reading on the table with my cereal. And I was like, "Well, I'll read it as soon as I finish this book, I'll read that one next." And he takes the book I was reading, he closes it, and he goes, "You don't need to read that book. You need to read this book." And he's like, "I can't believe I've been on this earth for 50 odd years and no one's ever told me this stuff." And if you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you'll know that it's not a book about what a lot of people do. Especially I get a lot of these comments on my TikToks and my YouTubes and my videos about people asking what to do. I have I have $5,000, I have $10,000, I have $20,000. What should I do with it? And they ask somebody like myself just because they see my videos and they go, "Well, he seems to know a little bit more than me, so therefore I'll just ask him." Right? And all I know is a little bit more than them about one specific topic, which was Tesla stock at the time. It's the only thing I studied. I'm not a stock person. I didn't know I wasn't a stockbroker. I never took any classes. I just really liked the company, and then I studied it, and then I actually, I do have a degree in economics, but I didn't really know anything. And I told people, I was like, your situation, your personal situation as far as finance. I always say there's when someone asks a question, I just did a video about this, is when somebody asks a question like, "I have $10,000, should I buy SpaceX stock?" Right? And there's two parts to that question that they're asking. Number one part of the question is, should I buy SpaceX stock, right? And the I part is not about SpaceX stock, right? Or Tesla stock or Google stock, whatever, forget about whatever the stock is. It's, should I be buying stock? And until, oops, I didn't want to do that. Yeah, until you know your financial situation here. I've just saw this. You guys can't see it on stereo, but I just saw this picture the other day, and I posted it up on my Facebook and whatnot. It says what people think financial plans cover, and it just says investment portfolio, right? And then there's a column next to it. It says what a financial plan actually covers, and it says identifying goals, personal cash flow. Oh, thank you for the gift there. Personal cash flow, equity compensation, cash reserves, estate planning, investments, retirement, insurance, education, taxes, and debt. Like that's what an actual financial plan is. So when somebody says, should I invest in something, and they just want a quick answer, there's no quick answer. I mean, you could give a quick answer, but it's what you should be doing with your money is different than what I should be doing with my money, which is different than every single other person should be doing with their money. I use this example. I have a friend of mine who asked me, she asked this question. She's like, I got $10,000 and what should I do with it? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not a financial planner. I don't know your situation. I don't know your debt. I don't know anything really about, other than, I know about Tesla stock. I know what I think about that. I know about, and I even when I talk about the stock, I know about the company. Like, there was a reason why I invested in the company, because that's a different question. Even though the same question is, should I invest in XYZ stock? That's a two part of the question. First is, should you invest in it? And then the second question is this a good stock or company to invest in? Right? So you have to have the answers to both of those questions. And most people just want to know the first question. Most of the time, they don't even really know what they're asking. They just, is the stock going to go up? That's it. And I think a lot of people, when they think about investments and financial stuff, they think, there was the big AMC and GameStop thing that happened in during COVID. Well, could we say that now on lives, or do we get trouble for saying that anymore? But a lot of people got like Robinhood accounts, and they got into zero commission stock trading. And in the past, it used to be every trade you made, there was a commission, right? If you ever saw Wolf of Wall Street. And in Wolf of Wall Street, they're doing the right? Because he's like, if the stock goes up, a lot of people come in and they buy, and I make a commission, and I make money. And if the stock goes down and they sell, I make a commission and I make money. And so I don't care if the stock goes up or down, I'm making money, right? And so that was what stock, it used to exclude people from getting into the stock market, because they had to go through a stock broker, and they had to have somebody else buy and sell the stocks. And that's not the way it is today. You can just go and download I use E-Trade and Webull, but you can go download an app and you can start buying and selling stocks. And people, I think, they think, oh, I'm just going to go buy a stock. I'll go, SpaceX stock, right? This one just IPO'd, so I'll use that. They'll go, okay, SpaceX, I heard something about it. Should I buy it? As a good company? And then they think, I'm gonna, I'll buy it for like, I'll spend $500 and it'll go up to $2,000 and it's $150. And the next 2 weeks I'll be a millionaire. And that's investing. And I invested. And that's not how it works. It's not how the stock market works. When you know about the stock market, when you understand about the stock market, the money, you can make money when stocks go up. You can go make money when stocks go down. You can make money when stocks stay flat. There's, you could literally sell calls or sell puts, and you make money by the stock not moving anywhere, by not going anywhere. So the education that you need to spend the time to figure these things out, it's a lot. And and this is why you should have a finance. This is why I'm getting into financial planning, so I can help people with this, because people don't really have the time to do all this. I I just got my my life and health my health and life insurance certification. I just passed that test about a month ago. So, and then just all of the, by the way, there's so much in insurance that as far as passing along wealth to your kids, as far as like building wealth in insurance policies and whatnot that are tax free and hide from the, don't really hide from taxes. It's just different rules for different investment vehicles. And it's insane, right? So now that I'm diving into that, and now the next thing I'm passing is my securities, studying for that as soon as I finish up this live. But there's so much information there, and if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're a doctor, well, you'd be a doctor, right? But if you have a job, if you have kids, if you have so much stuff going on in your life that, yeah, unless you're going to take the extra time, which most of us unfortunately don't have because we're in this rat race, to learn all this information that's out there as far as what you can do with your finance, because it's related to you. Like I hear people, I know people, there's people who love Elon Musk and people who hate Elon Musk and love James Bezos. They're like the billionaires. But here's the thing. Elon Musk's trillions of dollars, right? He didn't get, I know they talk about Elon and his emerald mine and his dad, right? But his dad didn't give him all his money. He didn't make money from emeralds, right? He made money building companies, right? Jeff Bezos built Amazon. There's a picture of him, and building it. This is not passed down money that these super billionaires have anymore. It's not like we're not in the caste system where you only the rich is the fiefdom and the kings and the queens. Like, these are people who built these companies that didn't exist. Nobody, if you said somebody, let's Google something in the 90s, they would think you're having a seizure. What are you talking? Are you talking in tongues? Like, that didn't exist. So all these companies that are huge now were started, that are the biggest companies in the country, were started by people who weren't millionaires and billionaires. And so there are rules. Now, you don't have to start a business and become a trillionaire, right? That doesn't have to be your goal. But you can use all the tools that those people use. And the reason why so many people get mad at the billionaires and stuff is they say, oh, this person made this much money, they didn't pay any taxes. The rules for taxes are different for, let me bring it up. They're different for people who are investors and people who are, for people who are employed, who are regular W-2 employees, than there is for people who are business owners, than there is for people who are investors. Like, they have different rules of taxation for these people. So if you are making money through being employed, then you might look at the way that the money is made by an investor and say, well, they're not paying the fair share. Well, they are. They just have different rules. And the rules are designed for people to be investors and people to be business owners. That's how our taxation rules work, right? If you are employed, you very simply pay the most in taxes. And now you can be employed and move that money into the investing area. Like, you can start investing it. You can buy insurance. You can invest into assets to make things better, right? So there's something called the golden rule, right? And the golden rule, I say there's two golden rules. Most people, they know the golden rule for the middle class and for the poor. And the golden rule for the middle class and for the poor simply states, treat other people something along these lines. But I'm paraphrasing it, but it's treat other people as you wish to be treated. All right, that's the golden rule. All right, for the rich, the golden rule is those who make the rules those who have the gold make the rules, right? So I'm already butchering it. I don't know if that's somebody. Did somebody just send me? I see there's people in the room, so thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or you want to type anything in, I'm trying to learn the TikTok live thing, by the way. So if I miss your comment, or if you want to leave a comment, I see a bunch of people coming in, but I don't see any comments. So if I miss a comment, I'm sorry. I'm just looking in the wrong place. But so the golden rule for the rich is those who have the gold make the rules. And the people who made the rules are the people who are business owners and who are investors. Now, the thing is, you can become a business owner or an investor. Now, becoming a business owner takes a whole lot of skills and a whole lot of risk. And you have to, up front, you have to be willing to sacrifice. You know, an employee, for example, they go, I get paid for my time. And they immediately, you know, I get paid this much an hour, I get this much a year. And they sacrifice their time for money, right? The business owner and the investor, they don't sacrifice their time for money. They build a system to make money. They sacrifice their time to build a system, and the system can then work without them to make money. You know, so you know, how does Elon Musk run SpaceX, Tesla, Boring Company, Neuralink, you know, all these other things? Because he's very good at making systems. He builds systems, and then the systems can run and they make him money, and he doesn't have to be. So that's why when I see people like say, well, you know, to make $1 trillion, you'd have to work. You know, you'd have to make $10,000 an hour for the next 700 years, or whatever the heck they come up with these numbers, because their mindset is in the employee mindset. They look at everything as time, trading time for money, and that's the worldview that they have. That's not the worldview. That's not the side of the money where Elon is. You know, so actually here, let me put this up. Hold on, close that. I'll put this up here. What I'm talking about. Oh, whoops. Wrong one. We're going to close that. Open this one, right? So here we go. So if you're on TikTok, you can see this, right? There's the employee that trades their time for money. There's the self-employed person who trades their time for money. The self-employed person, there's a difference between a self-employed person and a person who is a business owner, right? Because some people will be like, oh, I run a business. And they have like a pizzeria or a hairdresser, right? It's something along those lines. And there's difference between those two. A self-employed person, they are the business, right? And they could be a pizza shop owner. They could be my mom got hip surgery, right? So they could be the surgeon who does, makes a ton of money doing surgeries. But the problem is he has to be there. We went to him because he is the hip surgeon expert specialty guy. He can't, if he's not working, then he's not making any money, right? So he's still trading his time for money, even though he's a surgeon. Or the pizzeria guy who's in the pizzeria all the time, opening and closing, like he's just owns his job, right? Versus someone who builds a business and then doesn't need to be there anymore. Like Elon doesn't, he can take a day off. He doesn't, but if he's not at Tesla that day, there's work going on. Everyone is very self-reliant to work without him having to actually be there, right? He can be working on multiple projects, multiple things, different areas, and the business keeps going. So that's the difference between a business owner and a self-employed person, someone who owns a job. One's still trading their time for money. One is building systems to create money for them. And then, so that's a challenge for a lot of people, because to build a system, it takes time. If you don't know what you're doing, I hear people sometimes will say, oh, that Elon Musk, he's stupid. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know, he didn't build the rockets. He's not building the cars. No, he built the system to make the cars. He built the systems that allowed the engineers to make the rockets, right? And if it was so easy, then we'd have lots of trillionaires, right? If he just sat around and played Diablo all day, then there would be, a lot of people would be doing the same thing, but there aren't. There's one. It's one guy. So, so the point being is, being a business owner is a challenge, and maybe you can't go there. But where you can go is, you can go into the investments. You can become an investor. Hey, good morning, lady boss. And by the way, thanks for Dreamy and J Bands. So by the way, just since it popped into my head, so I'm going to be doing this. This will be Money Matters. I'll be doing this on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 to 9:30. I probably go a little longer because I like hearing myself talk once I get on a little roll. And then I will be doing a webinar, which I'll start sending out if you're interested in it, on a specific kind of investment strategy, whether it's how life insurance works, term life, whole life, universal life. I'll be doing a webinar, how to be why I just learned the other day. I was like, well, not the other day, it was about a week ago, why people put life insurance on their kids. I was reading about this, and why they put it on. Why would you put a life insurance policy on a kid who's 5 years old? Like, if the kid unfortunately passes away, you need the money? Like, the kid isn't supporting you. I didn't understand it. And but what wealthy people do is they put very large insurance policies on their kids at their young age, 2, 3 years old, 1 year old. And because then by the time they take their money basically out of, talking about taxes, right? And the rules that are made for the rich. So, but basically they take their money that's already been taxed, they put it into an insurance policy for their kids. And then by the time the kid is 30, 40 years old, there's, millions of dollars in there, and it's all they could take it out without having to pay tax on that money. It's the way they give their kids money, without transfer kids their money without them having to pay taxes. They do it through insurance, and it's totally legal. It's not, by the way, and people go, oh, see, that's not fair. That's what the rich do. You could do it. Anyone could do it, right? So once you understand the rules of the game, then you can beat the game. All right. So that was the whole point of my original talk here. Oh, hold on. I got a lady boss comments. Let me play it real quick.
Hey, good morning. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm so glad to see you on. I miss your voice. What's happening?
Well, thank you, lady boss. I'm going to be on a lot more. I'm getting the hang of this again. I am on TikTok right now. We also are live on my YouTube channel. I'm really bad at even promoting. It's the Bright Futures channel. And also you can check me out on Instagram. It's called B Futures, Bright Futures. That's my goal, is to make everyone's future brighter. It's B Futures 2026. So I just started that Instagram as far as that goes. And by the way, if anybody wants to, I'm as a New York Life representative now. If anyone wants to have a consultation, I do free consultations now. I'm still learning a lot, so that's why they're free, because I'm still new. But I want to get to the point where before earlier I was talking about when someone says, should I buy XYZ stock? There's two parts of that. The should I buy it, meaning my financial situation, and the question about the stock. Is this a good company? I understand now, after doing it for a couple of years, many years now, six years or so, actually even longer than that, before. But anyway, I understand how to evaluate a company and look at the financials of the company and determine if I think the company is good, which I would then invest in. But now I'm learning about the I part. Should you be investing? And I actually got off on a tangent about this earlier. Like, I had a friend who was like, I've got $5,000. Should I invest in, Tesla? Because I talk about Tesla all the time. And as I was close to this person, and I found out she had, a lot of credit card debt. And I said, and I didn't tell her what to do, but I said, okay, well, you have at least $5,000 worth of credit card debt. And you're paying 28%, on the credit cards. So do you think you're going to get a 28% return on Tesla every year? And she's like, I don't know. I go, well, you have to decide. It's not up to me. what you do with your money, but you have a guaranteed 28% you're losing on the credit card. So losing 28% is the same as gaining 28% if you can get rid of, if you don't have to lose it, right? So you have a guaranteed, return on your money there by paying the credit card debt off. Whereas who knows what Tesla will do in the next year, right? So are you in for a long-term investment? And I do this is how I do these types of things. I don't like to tell people what to do. I like to ask them and have them come up with their own conclusions. And she's like, yeah, maybe I should just pay the credit card debt off. I said, yeah, sounds like a good idea to me. So so that's what I'm talking about. The financial planning, as I got rid of my other picture here. Financial planning is not what stock should I buy and does it go up or down? That's not what it's about. It's about coming up with a plan. If you, for example, if today, this morning, you went to, or later on today, you went to your mailbox and you had a check that you didn't expect that came in for $20,000, what would you do with it? Now, if you say, if your immediate thought is, I might buy this, or I might go do this, or maybe I'll do this, and you start going through that process in your head, like, oh, I might pay some bills, I might do. So when you have a financial plan, there's no like, oh, let me think about this. You just stick it into the like an extra 20 grand. You just stick it into the plan. Like 10% goes into my investing account, then it will trickle down through my bills, and then it goes down to my decision money, and then it will go into either the buckets that I've set up, whether it's debt reduction or savings, or how much goes into that. We sure to have that planned out, right? And that's just what I do as a financial planner. We make the system already, and then it's the same thing. If you got a bill for $20,000, all of a sudden you had to go to the hospital, or something popped up, or some tax thing came up, or some life thing came up, how would you pay it? Right. And the thing that it's kind of tough, it's really tough as I go through this financial planning stuff. One of the things that I do right now is I do insurance. That's the first level. The first level is insurance. And it's like, I just had a friend, and I posted on Facebook and whatnot, who 33 years old, and her husband died, and she's got 2 kids. And I don't know if she has insurance or not. I hope she does, but she's already got the GoFundMe out, and it's like, GoFundMe should not be it's not a good financial strategy. It's tough. And it's weird because you don't want to be like, you don't want to be like, you should do this. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about in general. It's interesting talking about life insurance with people, because you're painting a negative picture, but you got to be prepared for this stuff, And so, and the thing is, a lot of it is, it's really cheap, especially if you're young. If you're younger and whatnot, then, I just saw a 30-something-year-old in decent health get $1 million of life insurance for literally, I think it was like $32 a month or something like that. And it's like, they have a kid, and I'm like, so yeah, maybe, how the idea is, if that person passes away, and obviously their family is going to be devastated, but they're going to be devastated in the emotional side of it, and there's nothing that's going to change about that. But then on top of that, now they got to say, well, how are we going to pay the mortgage? How are we going to pay and then they feel guilt because they're like thinking about money when they want to think about the loss of a loved one. And it's like, this insurance it's really important, because then, how great would it be to say, hey, here's the final gift from your mom, dad, sister, brother, your husband, wife, you're a millionaire now, right? And you don't have to worry about the bills, and you can just be. Now, it's not like, what I think of, what was the movie with Robin Williams and the whole How do you like them apples? Good Will Hunting. It's Good Will Hunting, right? And Will is talking to the the girl, and in the is it what's her name? Anyway, don't worry, I'm not gonna remember her name, but I see her face. And she's in Harvard because her father passed away and left her a bunch of money. And she says to him, do you think this money? Do you think I wouldn't give all this money back to have like just one more day with my father? I would, but I can't. Like that's not an option. So I have this money, and he left it for me, and I'm doing as best I can with the gift that was given to me by my father, right? And so that's what life insurance is about. That's why people should have it, and it's really inexpensive. So, but that's one of the parts of the plan. Like you see, the financial plan here. One of the way down there is insurance. So you can use it for wealth building. And by the way, my goal was not to come on here and sell insurance. By the way, I go all over the place with my mindset here, but insurance is one of those. Not just that kind of insurance, but that's one of the ways people use. By the way, it's all tax free. If you want to try to get out of the tax loop, that's one of the things that the rich use. One of the rules, and as I said before, there's the golden rule, and the golden rule is for the rich is those that have the gold make the rules, and they've set the rules up to benefit them. And I always say, one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I get frustrated about, and I'm sure a lot of people get frustrated about. Like I look at how much money we like that the inflation, how inflation's going. I was watching one of my old videos. Actually, I think it's the second video I made on TikTok, or the third video I made on TikTok, and it was about right when it was during the times of 2020. I'll just avoid saying the C word, the other C word that people don't like. I don't know if we could say it on these apps anymore. But it was during the time of the sickness going around, and I was doing a lot of walking outside, and somebody asked me about quantitative easing, and quantitative easing is basically a fancy economic phrase for the government just making a bunch of money and sticking the money and this is what they were doing during that time. All the checks they give out and the PPP plans, for those of you around that remember this stuff, and all that money that they stuck into the market, and they stuck into the government, into basically the world, right? Into the US. They turned on the money printer, because remember all that money that they made, that it was something around, I want to say it was close to $4 trillion, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but between all the PPP loans and then the $1,200 checks that they gave to people and all the stimulus that they put in, and that was all quantitative easing. That wasn't taxed. That money didn't come from tax dollars. They didn't go, hey, next year there's probably going to be a worldwide pandemic, and we're going to need to tax you extra and have it in the coffers, getting ready for it. No, they just said, let's just press they don't have to press the, they don't have to print it anymore. They just press the buttons, and the numbers just go into bank accounts. Just boop, done. That's out of thin air. This is why money is not real. So money is this is why the rich will gladly give you their money for your time, because your time is limited. The money is infinite, right? You can always make more money. You can't get more time. Excuse me, as I drink here. Sorry. Started working out every morning too. I'm done day 2 of 90 of a 30-minute workout. So anyway, so the rich will always give you money for your time, right? They will always pay employees. They will always. Why are they trying to make robots now? Because they want more time, right? Because the robots can work longer than 8 hours. They can work 20 hours, 21, 22 hours. They can work they can work on weekends. They don't get sick. They don't have unions. They don't, all that stuff. So that's why the rich are working on robots, right? That's why AI is something they're looking for, because they will gladly give their money, which is infinite, and something that's infinite, if you know anything about economics, is not valuable, right? So the only reason our dollar is valuable is because we believe it's valuable. But I'm getting off track. The quantitative easing, when they threw a whole bunch of money into the works here, into the banks, into the system, well, that's why we have this crazy inflation right now. That's why the price of eggs is going up, and the gas. Well, gas is more not necessarily tied into that, but the prices of housing, the why the stock market is still high. You know why the stock market's still high and it hasn't crashed? Because all the rich people, when people understand these concepts, were like, okay, if you put $4 trillion in there, that means the value of every dollar is going to go down. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to keep my money in cash. So we got to put it into real estate. We got to put it into stocks. We got to put into something other than cash, right? Because the value of the cash has gone down, but the stock market has gone up and the real estate has gone up. So they've said with their financial plans, they said, well, yeah, the dollar's not worth as much, but all of my investments have gone up. All right. So this is what, again, financial planning is, understanding this. Now, you're not going to sit around, you might, but most people are not going to sit around and try to learn all this stuff. This is why you have certified financial planners. And I'm not a certified financial planner yet. I'm working towards that. But I got like 4 more tests. By the way, it's really hard to become a certified financial planner. You have to pass your the life insurance test, which I passed. You have to pass your SIE. You have to pass the Series 63. You have to pass the Series 7 or Series 6, and then you also have to pass the certified financial planning, which is 6 hour, and then you have to do 4,000 hours of financial planning with people. So it takes like 3 or 4 years. And so so the point being is I'm on that mission, but those people exist, and you can get, now by the way, they charge like $200, $300, $400 an hour for a certified financial planner. But you need to have a certain level of financial education yourself. So when you're dealing with somebody else who's talking about finances, whether it would be you're buying insurance or whether you're trying to get involved in the stock market or whatever, I have people who say, I just give my money to someone. Well, that doesn't really work. You need to know a little bit. You need to understand what they're saying to you, and that's why one of these things here, it says what a financial plan actually covers. Let me put it back up here. At the bottom there, or not at the bottom, third from the bottom, it says education. So financial planners should also be educating you about finances as well, because you need to know, like, it's not enough to just give money to somebody else and say they should do it, because then you don't know what that person's doing. You don't understand how much they're skimming, what they're taking or what they're doing. You have to understand what the plan is yourself. So you have to have some level of financial education, which is why I'm doing these twice a week, and I'm going to do my webinars on Saturday for an hour to try to, the Saturday, Tuesday and Thursday, I'm just going to be free flowing like this. If there's questions that pop up, I'll probably answer them. I'll go on some tangents. But on Saturdays, I don't know if I'm going to do it on Saturday or Sunday. I haven't decided yet. I'm just going to have a focus on some kind of investment strategy or some kind of investment product, whether it's term insurance, life insurance, hold, whatever. I'll have a different topic. Investing for retirement, saving for kids, college, whatever. And I'll promote that. So I'm excited to be doing this consistently, and hopefully I can give people some education. And again, if you want to, you can reach out to me if you're interested in getting a consultation, a one-on-one consultation, because there's stuff about you and what your plan should be. And then there's the products, as far as whether it's a stock. The products could be stock, it could be real estate, it could be, investing in a business, it could be investing in whatever. That's one area. But the second thing is, should you be doing it? And that's your financial. And you have to understand about your financials first before you can decide what else you're doing. So I got a message that just came through from Mr. Midwest. Don't put me on a space. Last time I tried to do this, you put me on a SpaceX 2-hour rant. So I'm gonna listen to those, but I'm trying not to go too far off on a tangent today.
Hey, Maddie. Good morning. Hey, I'm wondering, I heard you saying you're going to cover various topics. and I didn't hear this on your list, but something you might want to cover that I found really interesting when I learned about it is using HSA, health savings accounts, to save for retirement.
Yep.
It has this benefits from a triple tax advantage that I thought was really interesting and worth covering.
Yes, HSA. Yeah, there's so like when you start diving in. Thank you, Midwest, for that. When you start diving into this stuff, like it's funny because if you don't know about how this works, and then you hear about somebody else doing it, like a billionaire or a millionaire or the rich, you go, that's unfair. Like it's not, they're cheating. They're not, and it's like, no, they're just following, they just know the rules. so, you know, there's, I was reading, I think it's from The Richest Man in Babylon, where they talked about like, if you took all the money away from everyone, like you said, everyone, we're going to start over. We're taking everyone's money away. Right. And, you know, no matter how much you have, whatever your wealth is, and we're going to start from scratch. Okay. The wealthiest people within a year or two would have all their money back. Right. Because they understand the system. They understand how the game is played. They understand the rules of the game where most everyone else doesn't. Right. And it's not their fault. It's just because our education system is not designed to teach you how it works. Because why would they? You know, why would the people who want workers, who want the employees, right, teach you how to win the game? You know, so they're not going to do that. So they're going to set the education system up to teach you how to be a part of the cog in the machine, not how to run the machine, not how to make the machine. So you have to do it yourself. That's the only way you can do it, and learn it yourself. And also by working with a financial person, a financial that you actually trust. Now, I'm by the way, I'm not planning on working with every single person that I meet. You know, my personality doesn't mesh with everyone. But when you get some financial help, then you start learning. Like I'm sure Midwest about this HSA, he wasn't like, oh, let me just go do some financial studying today and learned about HSAs. Like he was probably talking to someone who knew about HSAs and explained it to him. My guess, I don't know. I might put words in his mouth. I might be putting words in his mouth there. But when you start working with a financial planner, they start teaching you these different things, and then you learn. Okay, I'm not very good at sitting. One of my challenges is sitting and just reading about these things. It's very challenging. It took me a while to figure it out, but once I actually started working with somebody and they explained it to me, and then I had to explain it to somebody else, I'm like, oh, now I get it. You know, I talked about the whole thing about people buying whole life policies on their kids, right? So it's just a process, and it's just, you take time and you learn it, just like anything else, just like how you learned your job. The first day at your job, you probably, whatever you do, you probably were not good. You probably didn't understand it. It was probably confusing, and you just kept doing it, and somebody showed you, and you learned, and you got better at it. So with money, it's really important that you spend some time, you know, whether it's how to set up a budget and how to make a budget so that everything just flows and you know where it is. Because honestly, making money and getting to a situation where you can be comfortable and your money can make money for you, it takes a couple years, but it's a process. It's not like you have to be sitting there watching the stock market every morning and doing this and looking at graphs and charts. It's just, here's the plan, follow the plan, you know, and a lot of it could be automatic deductions, and it just, the money goes where it needs to go, and just don't do anything crazy. It's basically the way it boils down to. It's like, here's the plan, here's how much you make, and here's what it breaks down to. And if you don't make a lot of money, then it just might take longer. Or, you know, so one of the things here, I'll explain what I'm talking about. Like, there's three kind of like mindsets, right? I'm going to put this back up on for the TikTok people. It's looking at how the cash flows, right? I'm going to close this and close that one and open this one. So, oh no, not that one. I might not have it up here yet. I'll talk about it again on Thursday, but it's really simple. Should I be wrapping it up on that? Yeah, maybe. So the cash flow of there's two financial statements, right? That every business has and every person has. And if you want to learn about stocks, then you should learn about how to, like, when you talk about I want to buy stocks, should I buy a stock? Should I not buy a stock? Well, I would say there's three things you if you want to learn how to invest in companies, go watch a whole bunch of seasons, watch 2 or 3 seasons of Shark Tank, right? And don't watch it for the entertainment value, but watch it for the questions that the sharks ask, because the sharks are always, they're investors. That's what they're doing. They're doing evaluation of the company, how much money they're buying and the value. And you should try to understand what they're talking about, right? Why are they offering the money that they can and all that kind of stuff? And there's 3 things that they always look at. They look at the actual person who's running the company, right? They look at them, because sometimes they'll look at the product. The product's kind of cool. And I've heard Mark Cuban say this a bunch. He's like, you're just a salesperson. Like, you don't understand this product. You're selling it, right? You're not like a good, we don't like you. A lot of times they say that. they're like, we like the product, but we don't like you, right? So because if you think the CEO of the company isn't a good person, or is not going to do the right things, and they're going to tank the company, or they don't have enough knowledge, or whatever it is, then they're not going to invest. So that's the first thing you look at. The second thing you look at is the product. Do you like the product? Do you think it's, what kind of competition is it going to have? What kind of, is it easily duplicatable? What kind of patents does it have? And, is it a product that people are going to buy? What's the target market? What's the TAM, the total addressable market of the product? And so you look at that, right? And then the last thing you look at is the financials, right? And so you'll see a lot of times the sharks will be watching. They're like, this product's awesome. They give them some samples, and they're all laughing and smiling. And they're like, all right, what's your sales? And they're like, I sold 3 of them, and they're like, okay, no deal, get out. Right? So you have to look at the financials. And financials, there's 2 statements that you have that every business has. There's your income statement and your balance sheet. All right. Income statement is very simple. The short-term income that comes in, you can think of it as your monthly, what income you come in monthly. Now that could be from salary is the main one, right? As far as that goes, but the salaries, but then you have other income, dividend income, real estate income. When I say dividend, that can come from insurance. I just realized, my company gives like a dividend every year, right? So that's dividend income, or you can have dividend income come from stocks, or you can sell options. There's all kinds of stuff you can do, right? So there's all kinds of income that's coming in, right? Different types of income. So then you have your income, then you have your expenses. Your expenses are everything that goes out during the month. So you got your money in, your money out. If you're looking at a yearly statement, money in for the year, money out for the year. And then you have your balance sheet. Your balance sheet has your assets, and it has your liabilities, right? And people get these things confused a lot, assets and liabilities. Because there's what's called a net worth way of looking at this, and then there's what's called a cash flow way of looking at this. A net worth, for example, would say, if you have, like, let's say you have a diamond ring, right? You would put that in your asset column, because the diamond ring is worth $5,000, and that goes in your asset column. In a cash flow sense, that diamond ring doesn't go on your balance sheet, because it's not bringing you any money, right? It's just on your finger or sitting in your drawer, right? So it's something that's valuable, but it's not something that's bringing you money. So I do a lot of cash flow. We're looking at cash flow assets. So an asset would be something that is bringing you money, that creates income, and a liability is the easiest way to look at it. Assets make you income on a monthly basis, and liabilities make you expenses. All right. So liability could be a car payment. Liability could be a personal loan. A liability could be your house. And a lot of people, when they think of, if I ask most people, what's your biggest asset, especially a homeowner, they will say their house, because they have value, because it's the biggest thing that they spent money on. They spent a lot of money on their house. And they put it in their asset column, because they're like, I spent a lot of money on it, and they're like, oh, I have value, I have equity in my house. But that equity doesn't do anything unless you refinance, unless you sell your house. Same thing as the ring, right? Or you refinance to take the money out, which is also then making a liability, right? It's making a loan for you, and you're paying interest on it. So your house in a cash flow model is not an asset. It's a liability. It is an asset for somebody. It's an asset to the bank, to the mortgage, because you're making them, your house is making them $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 of income every month. So that's why people think their house is like their biggest asset, is because it's an asset. It's a big asset, but to the mortgage company. By the way, your house is also a asset to the local government, right? So because you got to pay your property taxes. It's also an asset to, the lawn care guy. It's also an asset to the plumber, or to the water company, to the electric company. These are all bills, expenses that go into your income statement, right? That are associated with your house, right? And even when you pay your house off, you still got to pay the property tax. Still got to keep lights on. Still got to do all that stuff. Now, again, if it's a investment property where you're renting it out to somebody else, then it could go into the asset column, as long as the rent is covering all the expenses, and then blah, blah, blah. So you got to look at, as a cash flow model, your income, your expenses, your liabilities, and your assets. Your biggest asset, by the way, is you, right? Is your income, how much money you can make. Because you're making, probably for most people, you're the thing that's bringing in the income to your income statement. Now, what happens though is, someone who is quote unquote poor, all of their income goes to paying their expenses. So like some people say, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and they might be, but they're like, yeah, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but because my Mercedes bill, my Mercedes payment every month is $1,000, and we go on vacations at least 3 times a year, and we do this. So that's not the same as paycheck to paycheck, as I make $20 an hour and I have a kid, and all of my money goes out through my expense column every single, like, there's a difference between these two, right? One is you're living paycheck to paycheck, but it's because of the decision you're making. You're making decisions to put your income into liabilities, whereas the second person is, they're living paycheck to paycheck because they just don't have enough income. They need to increase their income, right? So difference. So like a college student, for example, they might only work part-time. All the money they might make $200 or $300, a week. And all that money goes straight to, beer and partying and, clothes and Xbox and whatever. Right. So that's it. And that's all they want. Right. So that's why they're called poor college students. Right. So the money goes in through the income statement and out through the expenses in 1 month. Now, the trap that everyone falls into, that is the trap of the middle class. And this is where, by the way, I'm going to talk about this over and over and over again. So as we're coming towards the end of the show here, but I want to wrap up this concept, is they make their income and then they buy liabilities, right? And so what happens is, after you get out of school, you get a job, a career, not a job now, and you're moving up and you're making more money. And what happens is, as you make more money, people say to themselves, well, I deserve nicer things. I should get a nicer house. I should get a better car. I can't be driving around this beater. I should, cool, I can buy a car, but they buy it on a loan, right? And then they start getting credit cards, and they say, well, we need a nicer couch. We need this. I don't have $20,000 in my, right now. So we'll put it on the credit card, or we'll finance it, and we'll be no interest for 6 months, and then blah, blah, blah. We'll go from there. So that is, hold on. Yeah, someone calling me, customer calling. So the point being is, yeah, these are not, so the money goes into the liability column, and then they get stuck there. and they buy nicer things, and they start making more expenses that they didn't have before, right? So they get a nicer apartment, which makes better, more expenses, right? They get the nicer car, they start paying on their credit cards, and then every time they get an infusion of money, they get more things, right? And then, maybe they get married, maybe they meet someone, now they have two incomes, and they're like, you know what, we need a good bed set, we need a better this, we got to redo the kitchen, we got to do this. And then it's like, well, we got to have some kids, right? We got to keep the human population going, and the kids cost money, a lot of money. Right? So what happens is that, yes, they're making more money, but they're raising their liabilities. They keep buying more things that make them more expenses, and so therefore it's almost impossible for them to, I forget what it's called. It's called something creep, lifestyle creep. That's what it's called. And so even though they keep making more and more money, they keep buying more liabilities, and you'll see people who make $200,000-$300,000 a year who can't go more than 2 months without working. If they couldn't work, then they'd be done, right? And so because they've fallen into this trap. I'm a lawyer, I need to have the nicest suits, and I need to buy this, and I can't show up to my client's house in a anything. Oh, okay. All right, cool. So the point is, sorry, this person is very so the point is that these that's the vicious circle that keeps people in there. So to wrap up, where people want to go with they want to start buying assets. The more you can buy assets make income, right? They don't make expenses, they make income. So the assets, oh my goodness, there's a lot going on here right now. Let me get back to my stereo. There we go. So what you want to do is you want to take your income and you buy assets, and your assets will then make you more income. And so eventually you want to get to the point where your assets are more valuable than you, right? So this is what we call being financially free, or when you can retire. I heard people say, oh, I can retire. I tell people retirement isn't an age, it's a number, right? It's retirement is basically when all of your assets can pay for all of your expenses. If your assets, or whether it's stock, real estate, whatever, insurance, whatever it is, when your assets are making enough money that they pay for your lifestyle, they pay for your expenses, then you no longer have to work. And whether that's age 20 or age 67, that's when it is. And so, or if you never get there. So the idea is, instead of buying liabilities first, is to buy your assets first. And even if it's not all your money, it's like, how can we start buying assets so that they can pay for my expenses, and then I can be financially free. And then from there, now I can, and the whole purpose of doing that, the more people that are financially free, the more time we can spend raising our kids and helping other people and doing all the fun and good things in life, because you're not worried about, you don't have to trade your time for money, and you don't have to worry. You have everything secure. You're insured. You know where your money's coming from. Everything's paid for, and you can live a good life. So that's it. I gotta get going. It's 9:30. Appreciate everyone being here. I'll be here every Thursday, and either Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to do more of a specific webinar on a specific product or investment, and that'll be there'll be news coming out for that. So I'll be back here on Thursday. This is Money Matters, 8:30 to 9:30, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I will see everyone soon. Thank you for being here, by the way. Oh, I didn't play the messages. All right, well, I'm going to end these lives, and I'll play the messages on stereo. And